Hey guys, I'm Andrew. I did my presentation over Food Superhighway. The Food Superhighway, well, it's exactly as it sounds. It's a documentary I watched over the network, or I guess you can say the highway, that food travels along to reach its destinations across the world, starting from the farm that it's grown on, all the way to store shelves and, you know, everything in between. What is used to transport food on the highway? Well, the mode in which the food travels varies greatly because each load of food needs to be sent to a different destination, and not all vehicles can access you know the terrains that the food needs to travel across. So that's why you're gonna need more than just a van, or more than just an SUV to get this food to where it needs to go. The food is often passed off from carrier to carrier, so it's a team effort between the automotive, like trucks, and cargo shipping, just the giant cargo ships, as they are most popular, as they are efficient, and they're a lot cheaper compared to air travel, which I'm not going to be talking about in this PowerPoint, but they're not as popular either. But they are used in more extreme circumstances. Um, Automotive or road shipping. Uh, some examples of what in like a car you might see transporting food would be a standard pickup truck, or an SUV, maybe in more developing countries, or a commercial van or truck, like these trucks in the top picture. Maybe in a more developed country like ours, or an 18-wheeler. It's also an example. It's used to transport food locally, and to the second stop of their journey, which would normally be to the ports, where the cargo ships will then ship them across the world. We also have trains. I know a lot of people think trains are sort of phased out at this point in time, but they're really not, because sometimes it's not really efficient to drive a truck, from Georgia to California to get the food there. So you'll put it on a train and it'll get there, and you're not burning up all this fuel, and it doesn't stop. It just goes from point A to point B with like no breaks in between. Kind of like the trucks have to stop overnight. The train just it starts and it goes, you know. So, and it's used mainly when to transport food within a country normally, when it's not local enough for a van to just drive it there, because that wouldn't be very simple. Next, we have cargo transportation. Uh, cargo ship transportation is single-handedly one of the most important steps of the journey that the food takes, because you can't drive a car across the ocean. That just doesn't work like that. So you got to find another way to get it from country to country, especially countries that aren't right next to each other, that you can't just drive across a border in. The food is processed and loaded into giant containers. The giant containers you see on these ships and the photos, actually, and places known as ports. Ports go back to even the 1400s. They've always been the gateway to international trade, and with much of what you find in the grocery store being imports from other countries, there's got to be a way for it to get there. So, and many of you guys have eaten fruits and vegetables, so I can almost guarantee you that food they've eaten has traveled on one of these ships before. And people that work at these ports, actually, they have to be very, very skilled. The people that operate the cranes you see in the bottom picture, it takes months, maybe even years of experience before you can actually operate one of these things, because they have to go through a ton of simulation training, because you can't go wrong when doing this. Like, you can't accidentally stack a container a little slightly off to the left or slightly off to the right, because it'll lose its balance, and what if it tips, That's why they gotta have a lot of practice. How far does the food travel? Well, a fun fact, just is what food miles is. Food miles is actually just the distance the food travels from where it's grown to where it's consumed. You know, so from where it's taken out of the ground to where it's consumed. That's everything in between there are the food miles. International food trade is also increasing at a faster rate than population or food production, which is great for the economy because you're pumping in a lot of money, but it's not so great for the environment because when you take into account all the transportation that occurs, that's a lot of CO2 emissions into the air from the engines, from whatever's transporting it. And from 1968 to 1998, a 30-year period, world food production increased by 84%, population by 91%, and food trade by 184%, which means it almost tripled in a 30-year span. I thought that was really cool because it just kind of shows you how our country is heading in certain directions. And over here is just a little table showing you a couple examples of foods where they originated or where they're being shipped from and how they're getting there. And as you can see, ship or a cargo ship is definitely the most popular out of the group. Alright, here's just a map of each country's leading exports, and if you look in the countries in green, you're going to see all the countries with leading food exports. So like if you're a seafood fan, you're going to look up here in Greenland, and so if you're a seafood fan, a lot of your seafood is coming from up here, so it's probably getting loaded onto a ship, then shipped down the ocean to the United States. Or if you're a coffee fan or tea, any of that kind of stuff, that stuff's being grown over there in East Africa. It's taken across the country, I assume by a truck, or maybe a railroad, but probably a truck, and then getting shipped from a port from the west coast of Africa all the way over to the United States. And even down here in the right hand corner, bottom hand corner, sugar and dairy products, those are from the opposite side of the world. So getting those to the United States, that's quite a journey there. Because I just thought this map was pretty cool. Kind of shows the travel that all these foods have to take. Negative effects of the food superhighway, mainly the pollution or CO2 emissions, because during transportation, fuel burning vehicles are obviously necessary to move food from point A to point B, which makes pollution inevitable. The CO2 emissions from the trucks and the planes are seen as major threats to the environment, but so far no real alternatives have been found. This also goes hand in hand with the energy consumption and the CO2 emissions from refrigerated transport, because in some containers or some trucks, like, refrigeration is required in order for the food not to go bad. So it's been said that 40% of the greenhouse gases emitted from a vehicle engine stems from the onboard refrigerations of these foods. So in some circumstances, half of the pollution can just be contributed to the refrigeration of the foods and not even the engine that's powering the truck. And right here we just have a chart. It's kind of showing CO2 emissions per kilometer, per kilogram. So as you can see, like a short distance air travel, in terms of this graph, is below 3,700 kilometers. So a short air travel releases 1.762 kilometers. Oh yeah, my bad. 1.762 kilograms of pollution into the air just from a short trip. And I thought that was really weird, because when you look down here at a long journey, it's only 0.73 kilograms, and I thought that was weird. I didn't know why it would be that way, because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But rigid and articulated road trucks. A rigid truck would be something like one of the dump trucks, maybe one of the trucks maybe you saw on the automotive slide, or an 18-wheeler. Maybe that's a better example. Rigid trucks are designed to haul large loads on developed roads. So, and also the articulated road trucks are more trucks that you're not going to see as often because they're not really road trucks. They're more designed to maneuver off-road. So those are kind of what you'd see in like the major, on a really big farm, used to maybe gather up a lot of food at one time or something like that. Imagine one of those big yellow like John Deeres. That's an articulated road truck. And railroad, as you can see, it releases next to nothing. So railroads are very good mode of transportation, not only because they're quick, but because they're not really dangerous to the environment either. Same with water container ships, which go by water, obviously. This is what they release into the air. You see, next to nothing. So that's another reason why container ships are, in my opinion, one of the most important parts of the food superhighway, because they're not dangerous, and they're not dangerous to the environment, and it enables massive amounts of food to be transported at once. And if there's any solutions to fixing these CO2 emission problems, nothing huge, but you personally can make a difference if you want to buy from local farmers, because one, you're helping out a local, helping them stay in business, and the product you get is going to be more fresh, and it hasn't been on a 1,000-mile journey either, which polluted the environment along the way. So mainly you'd be doing it for yourself, because it might be cheaper, it might be a little more expensive, who knows, but it's always going to be more fresh than anything you buy in the supermarket. And this is my works cited, and that's it.